Okay, g'day peeps. So you wouldn't believe it, I was riding and I couldn't help myself. I saw these on the side of the road, not far from where I live, maybe half a K. So this one, I rode home with this one. It weighs about 13 kilos. It's a Fenton, here we go, FT1200A. I've googled this one. It's claimed to have a 12-inch sub. You can see here SD, USB, it's got Bluetooth, which I've checked. It's got inputs for guitars and a microphone and auxiliary RCA in and out. Standard IEC plug. I've plugged it in. It sounds absolutely horrible. I'll do a quick unboxing, a quick review of this one. But this is the other one that I couldn't quite carry this on the box. I couldn't quite carry this on the bike, so I had to go back and grab it. Rode home with this one, dumped it, came back and got this behemoth. This is a CSB15. This is claimed to have, here we go, 800 watt power amplifier, and basically you can see it's set up for bingo, for singing, for karaoke, single pot for volume, line in, line in, line out, so you can do pass through RCA, 2 microphone inputs, no specific guitar input, but you could stick a guitar in here, just need different gains. And what I want to do is, this one's meant to weigh 15 kilos, and I'm sure it does, but for something with a 15-inch sub, it should weigh a lot more than that. So anyway, I think what we should do is pull this bloody thing apart and have a bit of a play, have a bit of a listen, and you can make up your own mind as to whether you would buy one of these. The short answer is don't. They sound absolutely horrible. But I'll do some frequency sweeps and we'll play some music and see what we think. Oh my God. Okay, so let's have a look at this thing. Look at the size of this magnet. This is extraordinary. This is so crap, so tiny compared to the size of the woofer. This magnet should be about 2 inches deep and the whole speaker should weigh about 15 kilos. So yeah, it's got the surface area, and you can hear low frequency sweeps, which I've already done, and I'll show you in a sec. But this is just how to make the cheapest, crappiest quality with the lowest cost. Got some ports here, 50 and 250mm ports, which just, oh yeah, it's pretty awesome. Just pop out, more quality, absolutely zero baffling in here. We do have a power amplifier built into the back here, which I'll pull apart and have a look at, and a little tweeter, which I'm not going to bother to have a look at. The next thing we'll do is we'll pull apart the amplifier and have a look in the back there. All right. Oh my God. Okay, so there are our filter caps. Let's unplug this. Okay. So what I'll see if I can do is, there's our power supply behind there. Got all our pots, and okay, this is our power transistor, our amplification transistor here. I'm going to see if I can get in a little bit closer. That's the heatsink, apparently for an 800 watt power amplifier. Do you believe it? I don't know that I do. Signs of a cockroach in there. It's always good. Everyone needs a cockroach in their amplifier. 220 microfarad filter caps, 250 volts, so that's right on specification. They probably should be 400 volt filter caps. But this weighs probably 300 grams, 400 grams, weighs almost nothing. Cheap crap. Righto, so this is cheap Chinese garbage, claimed 800 watts out of this tiny little board, and this is an actual 800 watt amplifier from a Yamaha subwoofer. So this is absolutely the real deal. So this is our processing circuit, these are our filters, and there are our power transistors down there. And if we turn this around, you can see what it's from. It's from a YST SW800. It says 250 watts, that's the power consumption, but the power output is about 800 watts RMS. So this thing is an absolute monster. So this is the garbage, this is the real deal. Okay, so I've got some nice royalty free here. Righto, so we'll do a few more tests. You'll see here I've got this volume, bass and treble are flat. That volume's kind of cranked. I'll put that at 3/4. It just sounds so horrible. It's trashy. There's no distinction, there's no clarity, there's no separation of notes, and this is not necessarily a high quality recording. It's only an MP3, but still it is just horrible. Bit of guitar. Yeah, it just really, they both sound gosh, this is almost unlistenable. It really, the sound quality thing is really quite appalling. And even if I play, I've worked out if I play with the bass and treble, it doesn't sound any better. So anyway, I'm selling this for 30 Australian dollars. Someone's coming to buy it tomorrow. What a piece of junk. If you see one, leave it on the street. Unless you need 30 bucks. Anyway, look, that's enough. It sounds absolutely horrible. But I'm going to do some frequency sweeps and we'll see how we go there. Now remember, I've got the volume turned up 100% on the amplifier. That's at 100 Hertz. We'll go sweep all the way through. Now we're going to need to crank up the volume as we go lower in frequency. That should really be ground shaking, and its current excursion there is probably around not more than a couple of millimeters, maybe 3 or 4 millimeters, which is not surprising with that tiny pissy little magnet. So we're getting some flutter there, 30 Hertz. I fully expect to get cone excursion down to probably 15 Hertz with such a massive speaker. Here we go, 17. 13, 11, 9, 8. Okay, so you can see that should tell you the amount of cone excursion, which is again only about 5 millimeters. So from something that's claiming to have an 800 watt power output, that is really quite abysmal. That's working this thing pretty much as hard as it can go. And those crackles are not from my phone, I think they're from within the amplifier. Alright, turn this off before it destroys itself. Okay, now the next thing that we're going to do is, we know that because P equals IV and V equals IR, we can calculate the voltage we would require to generate a certain number of watts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect up my multimeter to the speaker leads here. This may or may not destroy this thing, but I don't think it will. So basically what it's going to do is there'll be no dummy load, there'll be just voltage going to a dead end. So I want those to be insulated so that they can't touch each other. And I want to plug that in, have that off, like so. Plug in a source, like so. Have that plugged into my phone, and you can see I've got this on AC, so we'll see what sort of voltage we get. Turn on our source. Now you're not going to hear anything, of course, because there's no source. But what we should be getting, here we go, 1.3 volts. Now I'm going to crank up the volume on my phone. Here we go, it's at 100%. So let's go to 1 kilohertz, which is a pretty standard test tone. That's 1000 hertz. Okay, 5.3 volts. Crank this all the way up. 12.8 volts. So I'm going to turn all this off. 12.88 volts. Remember that, and see what that converts to. And then I'll also measure the resistance of the speaker, and then we can calculate the wattage that it's producing. Now I'm going to turn this into measuring resistance. Okay, 6.3 ohms. So that's our power conversion requirement to do our P equals IV and V equals IR calculation to determine the power given the voltage that we know, 12.88 volts, and the resistance, which is 6.4 ohms. Righto, so we gave the other one, the CSB15, the Fenton, a bit of a tickle with its absolutely rubbish low quality 15-inch driver. Let's have a look inside the FT1200A. So again, media player, so you've got Bluetooth, you've got SD, you've got USB, you've got a couple of different things, and you cycle between them by pressing mode. So you've also got front LED speakers. Let's power this thing on and I'll show you what it's like, and then we'll open it up. Okay, so you press and hold it, it'll activate Bluetooth pairing. It says I'm connected to Bluetooth audio. So righto, so let's do some testing of some music. You can hear that hum. Now, this is just some royalty free stuff. Have a look at the back here. Now we've got bass turned up a tiny bit, treble. Just using the RCA inputs just to make it easier. And the reality is this just doesn't go particularly loud. And that is just starting to sound horrible. It's just the bass is really muddy, and for such a big driver it is just sounding really quite horrible. I'm going to put those LEDs on to get the full impact of this amazing device. It just sounds woolly with really, really poor sound. That's really all I can say. So again, cheap bingo nights, sporting events, but for the claim power output, you've got to remember this thing's only got a 13 watt amplifier in it, and putting out about 30 watts of peak music power output, it is just, for such a big device, you'd almost not bother. That's pretty much flat out, and it's just not particularly loud. Horrible, really horrible. So it sounds really quite, probably sounds okay during through the speaker, but it's pretty nasty stuff. It just sounds very thin. There's a bit of bass there, and yes, this is ported. And look, I would say for this one and the CSB15, if you're running a bingo night, absolutely. But if you want to party with any kind of clarity and any kind of substantial music or volume output, then you're looking in the wrong spot. Anyway, let's crack this thing open and see what it's like inside. So that's our 12-inch driver. It's not a foam rolled surround. It's just got some paper ridges there, which probably means in the long run this will actually last, whereas foam will decay, particularly if you get exposed to sunlight with some UV damage. Right, let's crack open the back and see what the amplifier is like in this thing. There we go. Okay, now this looks a little bit better. Alright, so we've got a couple of things here. We've got a 12-inch driver. Now, I wonder if this one sounds a lot better. Look at the size of the magnet compared to that piece of junk that was on the 15-inch speaker. Now, there's a little bit of baffling in here. There was none in the 15-inch model, and this actually has a transformer in it, which the other one didn't really have. I mean, it did, but it wasn't as big as this. A bigger heatsink for the amplification transistor, and we've got the little LED wiring lights here, so this goes through to the center to run the LEDs. Got a horn tweeter there. Looks like we've got probably a crossover built into that amplifier circuit there, because we've got obviously a high frequency split going to the horn tweeter, and this is our little Bluetooth module there. There will be a little aerial on the back there for the Bluetooth receiver, and I've got a couple of very small filter caps here, but that is certainly a more substantial, there's a little bit of warmth to it, so because it has been running. Now when I first powered this on, there was a hum to it, and I'll see it's a little bit noisy ambient wise now, so you can't quite hear, or couldn't hear the hum before when I first powered it on, but I might take this somewhere quiet just so you can see a little bit of earth leakage hum. But as I said, no baffling in the bottom, but a little bit of baffling, bit of acoustic insulation up the top there. So, but nothing, certainly nothing around the base of this. So this is going to be exposed to all the vibration from that 12-inch speaker driver. So we might do the same thing as I did with the CSB15 and see what the maximum power output this thing can generate is with a 1 kHz sine wave input. So it's going to be a bit hard to hear, but there is a hum coming from there, so I'll turn this off. No hum. Hum. And when it's very quiet, that is quite discernible. Right, first things first, we need some resistances. Okay, quite high, 9.6 ohms. That'll be important later on. Now I'm just going to unplug these speaker ports. I'm going to be basically taking the power output from the woofer because it's going to have the most power. So it actually does say LF out down there. Very hard to see, but that says LF out. Low frequency out. Okay, what I've done is I'm going to bypass the Bluetooth. I'm just going to go straight into RCA from the bottom of my phone, and I've got my plugs here. I've actually desoldered because I didn't want to fear a short. I was fearing a short on the amplifier module, so I've just gone straight and desoldered the speaker, the cable from the direct from the woofer. So I'm going directly into volts AC in my little trusty multimeter here, and what I've got here is bass flat, treble flat, everything else is down because that's irrelevant, and what I need is power, frequency generator, 1000 Hertz. So we're playing a sine wave there, gradually going to crank up the volume. I've got my phone volume all the way up. You go, 0.67 volts, so we're starting to get some movement at the station, and crank this thing all the way up. So at half volume, 3.2 volts, fantastic. Now remember our resistance was 9.6 ohms, I think. I'll go back and check the video. Now crank that all the way up. Okay, 11.54 volts. So I think that's pretty much it. So that's pretty much the maximum power output of this amplifier. Do some quick calcs, work out what that translates to in watts. We'll do some frequency sweeps now, so you can see that everything is flat. Bass and treble are flat. Importantly, volume is cranked all the way up. You can see that there. And we'll just do some frequency sweeps just to see how this thing responds. Okay. Start off nice and low, 30 Hertz. Phone volume all the way up. So some nice flutter, 3 hertz. You can see that wobble there. 10 hertz. So 15 hertz would probably be a practical limit. 16, 17 hertz. Getting some cone excursion there, probably around, at a guess, around probably 8 or 9 millimeters. But really starts to get a little bit more energetic around about 20 hertz, which is pretty decent, I think. Now I'm just going to turn the volume down a little bit. We'll sweep this up. Yeah, it's not pretty. That's not too bad. So 1 kilohertz. That's where we did our power. That's where we did our maximum power and our voltage check. Alright, and that's it for the frequency sweeps. So in summary, would I buy one of these? Probably for the price I'm selling it. I'll probably flog this for 30 bucks. So this is pretty good. It's got a lot of carry handles. It does have a post support at the bottom, which I don't have, but you can see there's a little rotating knob for a post, and it's got plenty of inputs. It's got USB, it's got SD card, and it's got Bluetooth, quite importantly, so, and RCA in if you want to hook it into a mixing desk or something like that. You can also turn off those horrible LED lights at the front, and you've got quite a few options here. This is not warm at all, so which is pretty good. I haven't been playing it for very long, but it's nice to see that this thing doesn't overheat too rapidly. Anyway, it's pretty portable. It's light. It's plastic, so it's nice ABS material, and this is so superior, even though it's a 12-inch driver, not a 15-inch driver. Compared to the CSB15, the big 15-inch one that I had a look at. And the difference is that this is only meant to have a claimed 700 watt amplifier, the other one has a claimed 800 watt amplifier, but I guarantee you at a maximum output voltage that we measured, we are nowhere near 700 watts. But let's go and calculate that so you can see how much wattage this actually generates. Righto, so here's the rub. The CSB15, which has a 15-inch driver and a claimed 800 watt amplifier in it, puts out 25.9 watts RMS at 1 kilohertz, which translates, it's the only formula that I could find to translate into VPP, or let's call it peak music power output, which is really anything the manufacturer wants to say. That cranks up to 36 watts of peak music power output. The smaller FT1200A with a 12-inch driver in it puts out about 14 watts RMS, which translates to about 32 watts of peak output. So in summary, don't believe the garbage that you read. It's like lights on eBay, you know, a 1,000,000 lumen headlight torch. It's all just rubbish and garbage and advertising gimmick. So look, if you're like me and you found one of these on the side of the road and you need a party speaker, look, that'd be fine. But the thing is, when you buy this stuff, you've got to store it, and it's quite bulky, it's quite big, it takes up a lot of room obviously, so I'm going to be getting rid of these. They're okay at moderate listening levels, but once you crank them up, they sound absolutely horrible. They distort, there's no cone excursion, there's no depth to the music, it sounds tinny, there's not a lot of bass there, there's definitely no mid-range, it's all bass heavy, and horrible trashy tweeter from the horns. So the sound quality is pretty poor. If I had to pick one, I'd definitely pick the FT1200A over the CSB15. It's better to carry around, throw in the back of a car. It's got a lot more functionality with built-in Bluetooth and USB, etc, etc. And even though it's got a slightly smaller amplifier, it does sound better because it does have some internal acoustic insulation. So that's it. Thanks for watching. This is more of street fine garbage from your local YouTuber. Cheers, guys. And again, don't have to subscribe, but if you can give me a like, it really helps my vids. Cheers.